In today's show, Trailblazers bounce back on Sunday with an easy win over the hapless Washington Wizards. But we got to talk about what happened on Friday night with Jerami Grant's injury and a deflating loss to the Dallas Mavericks and what it means for this team moving forward. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers. In today's program, we're going to talk about where this team stands after a rough weekend that ended with an easy win over the very, very bad Washington Wizards, but started with a deflating loss to the Dallas Mavericks and a tough injury to Jerami Grant. We'll start with the Wizards and go back in time because the Wizards game doesn't deserve much of our time. It was an absolute rout. We'll recap that game. We'll recap the Mavs game. We'll talk about Jerami Grant, his injury to his calf, what it means for this team moving forward, and what it means for the postseason race as they try to catch the Clippers and finish with the 8th seed in the West. Let's start Sunday evening and then we'll move backwards. Blazers cruise 123-88 against a bad basketball team that has no interest in winning, and after it was sort of competitive for a little bit, it was extremely not. The game ended in about 10 minutes. Blazers, they do have Rob Williams in this game, who got injured on Friday nights and did not play in the second half, but he returns and plays Sunday. That's a good sign. They do not have Jerami Grant, who got injured on Friday and did not play in this game. That's a bad sign. Scoot Henderson moves into the starting lineup, and Vit Krejci missed his 8th consecutive game. Has not played since March 15th now. Misses 8 consecutive game with a left calf contusion, but they don't really need them against the hapless Wizards. They're up 24-15 after one, almost a double-digit lead when you've scored 24 points. Anything is possible through the magic of a team not trying to win as aggressively as the Wizards have been doing all year. I know the Jazz get in a lot of trouble for their level of tanking, but I am telling you, and I've said this a bunch of times on the show, and I'll say it again, what the Wizards have been doing this season is more egregious. Sometimes they just play Anthony Gill over some of their young players. But they don't have Alex Sarr in this game. He's I think Alex Sarr's going to end up being really good. But you don't have him. Obviously, no Anthony Davis and no Trae Young because they're way too good to be participating in games. The Wizards, they do have Julian Reese though. Shout out to and my guy Leaky Black. But they have 15 points in the first quarter. But it kind of gets a little bit interesting there in the second quarter. It's tied at 41. With like 4 minutes left in the half. The Blazers started 0 for 11 from 3 in this game. They just can't make anything. Finally, Matisse Thybulle hits one. They start 1 of 12. Blazers kind of get a little space, though. 17-6 to close the half. They're up 11. And, it's like, okay, that was pretty bad. That's not what you wanted, but you're starting to pull away. And then the opening 10 minutes of the third quarter, coming out of the second half, the game is over. Blazers outscored the Wizards 26-9 over the first 10 minutes of the third. So that is a cool, combining the end of the first half and the beginning of the third quarter, a cool 43-15 run over about 14 minutes of gameplay. Blew the game open. They're up 28. They come out in the fourth quarter. It's 91-66 heading into the fourth. The 25-point lead. They come into the fourth quarter. They hit three straight threes on their opening 3 possessions. Cash. The last one by Drew Holiday. And they just said, yeah, that's it. Cool. We're up 34. There's 10 minutes and 45 seconds left. Garbage time. Empty the bench. Everybody goes. Everyone can go play. Blake Wesley, Young Hansen, a true bromance. Play the final 11 minutes of this game. This one's over. Cool. See ya later. The only notable fireworks at the end was that Young Hansen got a technical foul with less than a minute left in the game. A double tech for getting tied up with Julian Reese. Blazers win 123-88. That's your fastest recap in the West for Sunday. But Sunday's game is a bounce back, take care of business game against a terrible team. They've had a couple of these this week, right? You blow some really, really bad teams out and just say, okay, these teams are horrendous. We're going to stomp them. They're no good. Oh, the Brooklyn Nets are in town. How about it? Like that should be easy enough. Oh, the Bucks are in town. Easy enough. I talked about after that Bucks game that the messaging from Splitter had been so clear. You have to take these games seriously. These are the take care of business games because he said, the quote is pretty incredible. It's like, we're going to take care of business, win these games and go to war with the Clippers. So they're playing all these below 500 teams. blow out the Nets, blow out the Bucks. They just like, okay, these are taking care of business wins. They blow out on Sunday. They blow out a terrible Wizards team. On Friday, they play a team that's just like not awful. Mavs aren't very good. I don't think they're particularly like super invested in winning, but they're not nearly as aggressive in their tanking efforts, and they're certainly more talented just because of like Najee Marshall and Cooper Flagg. I don't know why Najee Marshall got the first shout out, but he did. Najee Marshall and Cooper Flagg, those are the two marquee players in the roster for sure. Like they have enough NBA talent. They're just better than these teams. They're better than the true bottom feeders. And I mentioned heading into that show that like the Mavs was sort of like sneaky challenging because while the Mavs had lost 5 in a row, 3 of those losses they'd taken teams into either overtime or down the stretch against teams that are probably going to make the play-in in the Western Conference. Like, this is not a horrendous basketball team. It's just not a very good one. But the Blazers coming into that game were 11-0. They'd won 11 straight games since February 1st against sub-500 teams. On the year, they're 22-6 against teams below 500. They I guess now that they played this weekend, now they're now a cool 23-7. But like. This had been their secret sauce, right? This has been the like do not blow games against bad teams. Like just don't flub any of them, and particularly don't flub any of them at home. And then they come out in the first quarter against the Dallas Mavericks and play like just pretty much awful, pretty much terrible. On Sunday, prior to the game against the Wizards, when asked kind of an unrelated question about like basketball tactics and X's and O's, Tiago Splitter, and I'm going to paraphrase here because this is a family show, he said that like, we played like crap. We just played like crap. And that's what happens. He said, you rewatch the film and it makes your stomach hurt. Like it kills your guts is the phrase he used. It kills your guts to rewatch the film because they just played awful. They start that first quarter, they go 7 of 20 from the floor. But more importantly, 2 of 9 on twos. They just couldn't score in the paint. And the Mavs were kind of like saying, hey, shoot the ball. We don't care. We're going to pack the paint. They can have some pretty big lineups with like Flagg and depending on who's playing the other forward spot. Like there's pretty small point guards crew, but like they can have a decently big enough front line. And they really, they make you play in a crowd in the paint, and the Blazers just couldn't finish. 2 of 9 on twos, 5 turnovers. They missed 3 free throws just to boot in the first quarter. The Mavs had 20 points in the paint. They were just getting absolutely bludgeoned. This is before any injuries, before any like sort of demoralizing stuff happens. The Blazers just come out in this game with basically their full complement of players and lay an egg in the first quarter. They're down 10. They trail by as many 17 in the second quarter. They kind of closed strong, like pull within 5, but they had 5 turnovers in the first quarter, 7 more in the second. Like they just 12 turnovers at halftime, 5 in the first, 7 in the second. Like I said, like they just played such a sloppy basketball game to begin this game that they're still down 5. They used a bunch of energy to try to get back in it. Cooper Flagg's got 18 at halftime. Like they're just. The offense particularly, I don't think the defense was that bad, quite frankly. Flagg's pretty good. He moves off the ball really well. Like he's going to be a very good basketball player. But like, I mean, to paraphrase like Splitter again here, and like when the coach says it, it's true. Particularly the way he said it and the sort of the setting that he used this phrase in is like, we played like crap. I think that's the truth. I'm censoring myself here because I was on press row earlier this week, and sorry I didn't get your name, but a 10-year-old celebrating their birthday and presumably their father, but their parental guardian, adult figure of some sort, came over and said that that 10-year-old was a daily listener, formerly a 9-year-old. Shout out to you, whatever your name is. Absolutely happy birthday. Hope you got to enjoy that game against the Bucks that game against the Bucks earlier this week because the game against the Mavs was kind of a nightmare. Coming out of halftime, the Blazers do not get Rob Williams back. He's got lower back soreness. Okay, that's a problem because Rob is their sort of switchable other option. Young Johnson's not even in the building. Not that he would play, but like they're going to have to go small. It's going to be a lot of Chris Murray and Sidi Sissoko in the second half. And while the Blazers do briefly take a lead for about a minute in the middle of the third quarter, they never seize control of the game. Like they're just down the entire night. They can't really get it together. And then on the final play of the third quarter, Jerami Grant gets hurt. There is a steal, it was a really actually Okay, outside of the Jerami Grant injury, the sequence in which Jerami Grant got injured on, he was injured away from the play, was an absolute, like, this game was ugly, right? The Mavs did not play particularly well either, but the Blazers played also famously like crap. So Dwight Powell is trying to run like a sort of like a dribble handoff action with Klay Thompson, and they just miscommunicate, and Dwight Powell just like throws the ball to Scoot Henderson. Horrendous turnover. Scoot Henderson races the other way on a turnover and smokes a layup on the underside of the rim, but for whatever reason, AJ Johnson is tracking back, and as the ball comes off the backboard on the underside of the rim, like a smoked layup at full speed, he swats it off the glass, goaltending. Absolutely bonkers play. I'm like, what are they doing? What are they doing? What is everyone doing? What is going on in this game? And on that play, so that when they get the steal, Jerami Grant's trying to change ends, right? He's trying to accelerate and go the other way, and he hurts his right calf. Thiago Splitter would tell reporters after the game that Jerami said he hurt a pop. Jerami stayed in, though. Like, I didn't see this live because I was so, first I was watching the ball. Second of all, I was so enthralled by the incredible mishaps happening by the Mavs and the Blazers that I was enjoying it too much to realize something had gone bad and at full speed. But looking back at it, like Jerami does, he goes to take off, and that first step, when he takes that negative step to explode forward, he comes up and starts hopping. He starts hopping on his leg. He doesn't go down on the ground. He kind of moves over and bends over like right in front of the scorer's table, and then ends up playing the defensive possession, just kind of hiding in the corner, right? And the quarter ends, and he does not come back for the fourth quarter. And then late in the game, they say, "Oh, he's got a calf injury. He's out." And then after the game, Thiago Splitter told reporters that Grant would go and have an MRI on Saturday. Let's talk about the second half. Let's talk about Grant's MRI and what the injury means for the Blazers moving forward. We'll do that in the second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax season, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment, that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. All right. Thanks for making this show your first listen. If you live the everyday lifestyle, go join the Locked On Everydayer Club. You get an ad-free version of this episode, Locked On Blazers, without any interruptions in your audio feed. Plus, you get access to the members-only Discord where you can chop it up with me and your fellow Blazer fans. It's a great place to discuss Blazer hoops. I'm in there. You can chat. You can chat with me pretty much every day. $5 a month or $50 a year. There is a link in the show notes, lockedonblazers.supercast.com, where you can learn more. So, Jerami Grant gets hurt in this changing ends to close the third quarter. Does not play in the fourth. We'll talk about his injury more in a moment. Let's finish this fastest recap in the West because the crunch time was a mess for the Blazers. They come out in the fourth quarter. They're down 3 heading into the final frame. And they open up over the first 5 minutes and 20 seconds, and they just can't do anything. They go 1 of 8. They missed all 4 of their threes, and they have 4 turnovers. And yet, they're only down 7. It could have been a lot worse because the Mavericks, during that same stretch, score 6 total points. But again, it's right there for them. If they just play somewhat competent basketball, they're just in such a better place. They're in such a better place if they play competent basketball during that stretch. They don't. They do not do that. That is not how it goes down. Even with all that, they are tied with 2:25 left. Drew Holiday hits a corner 3, tied at 92. They got a chance. It's they don't ever take the lead back. That's a tie, but they never take a lead back. Immediately, Marvin Bagley scores. The Blazers get inside. Donovan Clingan misses a layup. Donovan Clingan had one of those games. He hasn't had one of these in a while when he just could not score around the rim. He missed at least 5 shots in the restricted area. Some of them like totally unguarded. This was a bucket he can make. It's an easy bucket, easy basket for him to make. He's improved a lot as a finisher this year. He had a bad game. This was a bad miss. And the Mavs get it back, but they miss offensive rebound, illegal screen turnover. So the Blazers are going to get the ball back. Still down to minute 15. Okay, you're fine. This is, you still fine. You've got 75 seconds left in the game to win the final 75 seconds by 3. They kind of go to a mid-post isolation for Denny Avdia against Najee Marshall. Not something they do very often in crunch time, but Denny wanted it. They give it to him. He spends middle to get to his right hand. The Mavs, again, they're packing the paint. They're making it hard in the paint. He kicks out to Drew Holiday, and Drew Holiday gets a right wing 3 catch and shoot attempt about as clean as you're going to get in a game, and he just missed it. They got the ball to their best player. He got an advantage, drew some attention. He kicked out to a competent catch and shoot player, and he missed a shot. There's nothing wrong with the execution. There's nothing wrong with the setup. The ball just didn't go in. Now you need to stop. They don't get one. Mavs come down, run a double high screen. Brandon Williams, old friend, former Blazer great, finds Marvin Bagley rolling. Nice little pocket pass in there to Marvin Bagley. He kind of loops around, like half circles the rim and then dunks with 2 hands. Bagley had an awesome game, and the Mavs are up 4 with 44 seconds left. Now you are in scramble mode because you got to score twice. You're going to need score, stop, score. And the Blazers come down. They try to go quickly, and Denny Avdia attempts to throw an alley-oop to Donovan Clingan. Gets that screen in transition, gets downhill, tries to throw that oop. Denny has been really good at that all year long. He has made Clingan into a lob threat basically just by putting the ball right at the rim in a way that like no one else has been able to do with Clingan since even back in his UConn days. It's something they go to. It's just that Cooper Flagg saw it the whole way, and he is not helping out on his man, who I believe, because it was in like semi-transition, he would have been out to scoot Henderson on the far right wing, but instead he's just in the paint because the Mavs have been in the paint the whole game. They're gonna pack the paint and then close out and live with that, right? If you make jumpers or you beat a closeout, fine, but like they're going to have bodies in the paint, and Flagg is just a body in the paint, and he tips away the lob attempt, and the Blazers have to foul. Brandon Williams, old friend, splits a couple pair of free throws. Blazers down 5. Drew Holiday gets a tough step back 3 from the left wing. It's not a particularly good shot. It's like off the dribble. He airballs it. Ball game. Blazers lose 193. That's your fastest recap in the West. Let's talk about this Jerami Grant injury. Okay, let's talk about the game real quick. Then we'll get into Jerami Grant. This is just a bad basketball game because no Rob in the second half, no Jerami Grant in the fourth quarter. Those are big losses, right? You're closing. I thought the Blazers bench guys were pretty rough in this game. Like I mentioned that Clingan wasn't very good, but I mentioned Clingan, he struggled in this game, 2 of 9. He had 17 rebounds but he had 5 turnovers. Denny had 5 turnovers. Drew Holiday had 5 turnovers. It wasn't a game where Tumani basically one made 3 away from having what you'd call a fine game, but he had 8 points. Like they needed more from him. Scoot Henderson, 9 points on 3 of 11 shooting. I thought Chris Murray really struggled in his 12 minutes. I thought City Soko basically gave them nothing. They just couldn't go small. It didn't help them on defense. Didn't help them on offense. They had to kind of go back to their center, their starting group. With Scoot in the game, they just obviously the first half, particularly those first 16 or 18 minutes of the game, basically. They closed pretty well in the final 4 minutes, but maybe first 20 minutes of the game when they're trailing and just offense just stunk and turn the ball over all the time. It's just such a brutal game. And then the fourth quarter, obviously when you get in these close games, they're kind of toss-up-y, and Drew Holiday gets a wide open 3, and if he hits that, you have the lead, and then the Mavs have to play sort of a different game, and they it changes the tenor of everything. So, I don't think the crunch time offense is the thing that I'm really worried about. It wasn't very good, right? You miss a wide open shot and they rush and kind of get into a lob attempt that was maybe just a little too hectic. It's they played their style, but a little too hectic. But, second half, you don't have your guys. And the Jerami Grant injury is a big deal. He mentioned after the game that he did his post-game interview standing up. That's always a good sign, right? I remember interviewing Wesley Matthews way back when he tore his Achilles, had a boot on and was on the ground, right? And even the way Jerami got hurt and stayed in the game, it seemed like a bad injury, but it didn't seem like the big one. And obviously, when in the moment I didn't even notice it, but afterwards when Splitter said he heard a pop, I was like, oh, that's awful. Like that's really scary. This could be that could be the injury that nobody wants and just keep you out for a year and blah blah blah. But like he, standing in front of his locker room, he said, standing in front of his locker in the locker room to do his post-game interview, said he could put weight on the injury. When you hear him say that, and you hear him like, just, it seems like, okay, this could be bad. Like he might miss some time, maybe even a significant chunk of time, but it's not like the sort of life-altering type of injury. It's just the maybe season-altering one. And I think that really is the truth, because they do need what Jerami does. He's their, one of two guys in the roster that's like a consistently above-average shooter. Tumani has flirted with it, but he's been hot and cold. Denny has really cooled off in that regard. Scoot has not shot particularly well. It's Drew and it's Jerami, and Jerami is particularly the guy who like might have much more likely to have like those like makes 5 catch and shoot threes as a true spacer type of game. Even when Drew has nights when he makes a bunch of threes, they're usually off the dribble, but like a true floor spacer, particularly without Vit Krejci, they're missing that shooter. Let's talk about what Jerami Grant's injury moves forward is like moving forward, plus some sort of other looks around the league as the Blazers, like what this means for their postseason push as well, or their play-in seeding push. We'll talk about that in the third segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, I want to welcome you to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. That's right, with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze and Fruity Rainbow or Cotton Candy. There's something for everybody. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. Drum roll, please. That's right, it's berry. I'm going berry. The oldie but goodie. Give me a classic. It's got that tart, not too sweet flavor. The mixed berry flavor profile that you'll really love. Plus, it still packs the caffeine and the B12 and the boost you need to get over maybe your afternoon slumps or get your day started, depending on what kind of 5-Hour Energy drinker you are. If you've got a number one pick, go ahead and let me know. But maybe you're still like, I don't know. There's so many new things to choose from. Well, go check out one of these new flavors. Find your sleeper: Fruity Rainbow, Cotton Candy, Confetti Craze. You can find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots that are available online at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. Today's show also brought to you by the good folks over there at Indeed. You've probably been there. You got workplace chaos. You got deadlines stacking up. You got an inbox that's just overflowing, and there's one position on your team you have to fill that's still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs, which helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with skills and experience in the position and the location that you need. So you're not just hoping that the right candidate stumbles across your post. Instead, you're finding them where you are with less stress, less time, and more results. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I'm going to be talking to you, companies like yours are going to make 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support my show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire, you need Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All right, still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. So I think this Mavs loss, like considering the stakes, this chasing the Clippers, who barely, like truly should have lost a game to the Pacers. They survive a road game against the Pacers. But considering the stakes, like, a very close race to finish 8th. I think 8th is so much better than 9th in the play-in race if you have playoff aspirations, to use a Clippers phrase. This is just considering the stakes of this game and the timing in the season. You've got less than it's your eighth and final game of the season, or one of your last 8 of the year. It's one of the most disheartening losses of the season. The quote from Thiago Splitter is, "We really played like crap." Crap is obviously not the word he used. He said, if you watch the film possession by possession, it'll really kill your guts. That's what he said on Sunday. He had a day and a half to reflect on it. He comes back in the pregame of the Wizards game, and he's still clearly mad, right? Sort of just bent out of shape that they're not there. The Jerami Grant injury, they haven't given a timeline. He got an MRI on Saturday. They didn't release any results of that MRI. They just confirmed that he did. And then Splitter told reporters prior to the game that Grant will need more tests to determine how long he'll be out. That doesn't sound like good news to me. I don't know that it's terrible news, but it doesn't sound like good. That's not like the MRI was clean and we'll just see. It's like, we took an MRI. I'm not going to give you any information about that MRI. He's going to do some other stuff and we'll figure out what it looks like. He has not been, Jerami Grant, as I'm recording this at about 8:30 on Sunday evening. We have not got the dreaded Jerami Grant MRI or a PDF that says, it's a long-term injury and blah, blah, blah. Blazers, they'll send out for injuries that they've established will be long-term injuries, as opposed to the Vit Krejci thing, which is just like 2 weeks and we'll see. He's going to be day to day for a month while he misses a month. But like for long-term injuries, they send out a press release. That press release shows up in my inbox as a PDF. We haven't got a PDF yet. That's probably good news that it didn't come right away on Saturday, but it seems like Jerami Grant's season could conceivably be in jeopardy, right? Like we're closing in on basically 2 weeks until the season ends, a little bit less, but let's call it 2 weeks until the season ends, regular season ends. The play-in would begin April 14th or 15th, depending on where the Blazers get scheduled. So we're about shade over 2 weeks away from that. And just like calf injuries, at least even for the Blazers this year, have lingered. And the way that Grant got injured, where it was an acute injury where he said he felt a pop, doesn't seem like the kind of thing that he's likely to get back particularly quickly. This is probably a season ender, just based on how much time is left in the season. Like realistically, that's a guess, right? I'm not a medical professional. I'm a podcaster for the most part. So what does this mean? Well, it meant that Scoot Henderson jumped into the starting lineup on Sunday. They could move forward with that. I think pretty clearly Scoot is your best player available after that. You're a little bit smaller with that group, and you're not as maybe a switchy 1 through 5, but they trust Drew Holiday to switch, and they're going to have to eventually trust. I guess they don't ever have to trust Scoot Henderson. Actually, I've watched the last 2 years of Blazer basketball. They don't even feel compelled to trust Scoot Henderson. Admittedly, he hasn't really earned it, but they haven't really trusted him. It's just they were already pretty light on guys who you felt like could really help them in single elimination games, because I'm not much of a believer in what, Chris Murray is like a good defensive player and fun rebounder, but he just doesn't bring anything on offense and often does not play with any aggression on offense, and everybody knows it, and it just mucks things up because he's driving laterally across the paint, not looking at the rim. Cool. Defenses are really happy for you to do that, and then to like flip off to someone else and set a little brush screen, bring a second defender into the mix after doing nothing for 5 seconds dribbling. Sidy Cissoko plays hard, but it's not a good enough shooter or decision maker that you'd really want to be like, heck yeah, we're in these single elimination games in the play-in. Let's see what 22 and a half minutes of Sidy Cissoko looks like. I mean, he might be productive because he plays hard, and same with Chris Murray, plays hard. But like, he's just not the wings you trust. And maybe you're also like, you're really counting on Scoot to be productive. And this stinks. It stinks. It does. Because Jerami Grant on Friday had played his first game after March 25th since the 2021 season. He has famously not played in a game in April since 2021, and that season was a delayed start the regular season went into May, but he hasn't played like in a 82 game season past March 25th, and since he played for since he was a member of the Denver Nuggets. That was 2 teams and 2 contracts ago. It's just, this was the year he was going to do it, and now it's, and I've called him, Etu JG, the Ides of March, and he got past the Ides and was playing deeper into the season than he had, and then he comes up with this injury. It is sort of just the unfairness of it all, and then the Blazers need him. For all of Jerami Grant's warts this year, I think he's been pretty bad on defense, but his ability to shoot, his ability to even generate his own offense as needed, like, okay, this didn't work out. Can Jerami Grant just like get into an 18-footer and fall down and get an and one? Yeah, he can. And he can play a little bit in transition. He at least provides more length on defense, even if he's hasn't been very good. I don't think he's been very good this year, but on that end, but he can be better than he was. And at least he's just the size alone. It's easier to be like, a bad 6'9" player is better than a bad 6'3" defender, however tall Scoot is, 6'4" ish. Like it just is different. Like, it's just, they will miss him if he doesn't play. And now you also find yourselves trying to scramble to catch up with the Clippers. The Clippers, by virtue of barely beating the Pacers in just a bonkers game, I'll talk about a little more tomorrow, and then beating the Bucks on Sunday. They finished their two-game Midwest swing with victories. They've now won 5 in a row, and they play the Blazers on Tuesday nights, and what will be the biggest game of the season for certainly the Blazers, one of their biggest games in years, probably 5 years for the Blazers, and they have a 1.5 game lead, which means that if the Clippers win that game, they're going to be so it gets really hard for Portland really has to. They probably need to take care of all of the easy games left in their schedule, beat the Pelicans, etc. But they probably got to beat one of San Antonio or Denver, and beat the Clippers a second time to have a shot at 8th. And this was the fine line they were going to walk, right? It's that they really needed to just take care of business, win all these games at home, take care of business, go to war with the Clippers. They didn't do that. And a lot of the problems with this game happened before they got hurt, right? Like, the first half was abysmal, and then it went worst for them. So it was obviously disheartening because they lose, but disheartening because they play terribly, and disheartening because of the injuries. But some of the stuff, they just stunk early in the game and dug themselves a hole, and then were unfortunate with health stuff. It's just a disheartening loss. It ain't over for them. If the Blazers beat the Clippers on Tuesday, right back in it. You jump right back in the driver's seat. That's it. And that's what I want to talk about on tomorrow's show. This is the biggest game in 5 years for the Blazers. A massive one. Their new owner is going to be in attendance. This is huge. This is a huge game. We will spend Monday's show looking ahead at that, looking at the rest of what's at stake in that game, a little bit of a mini preview of the Clippers, as well as what's at stake for the Blazers with their 6 games left in the season, and same with LA, and where they're headed. I'm not going to do this here because we want to run a little bit long. I still think the Blazers this deep into the season they're better off making the playoffs, but it feels the way that they played against, they played last week, and the way they, a couple weeks ago on that road trip, and the way they played on Friday against Dallas. It's I don't know, it's haven't played hard against good teams. No, they played hard. They haven't played well against good teams. I just misspoke. I apologize. Tuesday is a chance to flip the script. So come back tomorrow. We'll talk about flip scripting. We'll talk about flip scripting. Script flipping. We'll talk about everything that's going into a massive game on Tuesday. It's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.